I am Professor Baniyelme Zoogah in the HRM area of the DeGroote School of Business.
And my name is Andrew, and I'm a fourth-year commerce student at Mac, and we'll be sharing our stories and experiences for Black History Month.
How have your experiences as Black professional, or Black student rather, shaped the way you approach your work and studies?
I think for me, how being Black has affected my studies and also my career is just making sure that we approach everything with a level of excellence. I think one thing for us is just making sure that whatever we do, we put our most effort into it. That's one thing that I do in everything that I do, is making sure that I put my all into whatever I'm doing. And I think my approach is to make something that you can be proud of and look back on. And I think it's a very, very important experience for everyone.
Okay, for me, relative to Andrew, I would say I have a long experience, and somehow those experiences have shaped the way I approach my teaching and my work. First, when I was a Black student, I had certain experiences that influenced how or who I became. And those influences were the interactions I had with some of my professors during those times. That was when I came to the US, because my background is basically that I was first in Africa and did my education to first degree, and then afterwards I came to the US. So the experiences in Africa are completely distinct from the experiences abroad, because for the experiences abroad, the idea of diversity or being different stands out. In Africa, everybody is Black, so nobody stands out. And so you don't have unique experiences that you can say are attributable to diversity. But coming here, yes, those were, in terms of how you are treated in class, how your professors regard you, and how they relate with you, and so on. So for me, now, based on those experiences, I try to make sure that my students never experience the same thing that I encountered when I was a student. It's essentially trying to correct the error through the work that I do.
At Mac, we're so lucky to have such a diverse community. I think that's one of the things that led me to choose Mac, is the sense of community that we have. And it's really good to see, yourself reflected in the classroom. Even though that we might not be a majority, we still have a collective. And I think that is one thing that Mac does really well, is just making sure that they show diversity not only in the classroom, but in what we're learning as well. And I think that's one of the most important things, especially nowadays when diversity is at the forefront of everything. So I think that is something that we should all be looking forward to as well.
Yeah, and for me, in terms of opportunity, a moment of opportunity that influenced me, what I recall vividly is coming to Mac. I came to Mac through the opportunity of what is called a Black cohort hire. So if that hadn't been there, I would not have come to Mac, because it's through that cohort hire, which was part of the former president's initiative to brighten Mac, or brighten the world, that they thought representation was needed in Mac, and they went out looking for faculty who could facilitate that in terms of helping with the excellent objectives of the university. So that is a moment of opportunity that influenced me.
I would say something, when I look for opportunities, is to make sure that anything that I go into has the ability for me to grow, as well as join a like-minded community. There are many times when you're looking at an opportunity and it may seem well, but you really have to dig deeper into what that community is like and what they offer in terms of allowing you to grow as not only a person but a professional. So my approach to looking at different opportunities, whether it be for clubs or jobs, is just making sure that they have a supportive community. And I think that's one of the main things that allows me to assess whether an opportunity is right for me, is making sure that they have a strong and robust and welcoming community in place. If you had to describe your journey in 3 words so far, what would that be?
And the 3 words would be upward U10. Let me elaborate. When you are a minority, sometimes you are often beaten down, and you have to kind of make the effort to get up, and getting up not so much to stay at where you are, but to move up further. So it's like you're trying to move up, you are pushed down, and then you rise up to a higher level. At that stage, someone would also make another effort to push you down and you would fall, but then you have to get up and move up again. So you are constantly engaged in this process of falling, rising, and going up, falling, rising, and going up, falling, rising, and going up. So the upward is an upward trajectory, but you have to make a U-turn. And if you don't do that, you would never succeed. You would never progress. And that is where the challenge is. And for me, those are the 3 words that sum up my life from the beginning till now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I think that what you've been saying, especially always making sure that whatever you go into, you have that support, you have that ability to grow. And I think that's one thing that a lot of Black students face, is that adversity of even getting their foot in the door. So always being open to new challenges and making sure that you're overcoming that. I think that's one really, really strong thing as well.
Okay, good. Andrew, then, what's one thing about business school or academia that people don't talk about enough?
Mm-hmm. I think one thing that people don't focus on, especially within business school, is the ability to be more I think one thing that students don't really focus on, especially coming into business school, is being able to adapt and learn many different skills. For me, I'm studying marketing, but I also am pursuing other streams adjacent to it, especially like nowadays with the prevalence of like AI and how hard the job search is. Being a well-rounded candidate is something that is on the top of my mind. I think should be on the top of mind for all students. So not just like fully diving into one stream of business, like marketing, for example, but branching out into many different streams. For me, I also took courses on like the data analytics side, the information system side, as well as like innovation. So being a little bit more well-rounded and being a student that thinks proactively on like what emerging trends are, instead of only focusing on one certain stream. I think that is something that a lot of students don't really grasp when they're first coming in. They might come into business school thinking, oh, I'm going to do accounting or finance or marketing or HR. But if you don't branch out into adjacent fields or fields that are emerging to you, especially when looking after graduation, I think that's one thing that a lot of students don't factor in when they're coming into school. So for me, I think one piece of advice is, yes, focus on what you're doing, what you're coming into a business school for, but also look at adjacent fields, look at emerging trends, and really make sure that when you come out of school, you're a well-rounded candidate and have skills that can, boost your resume, but also how you are as a person. Because all of these different classes will teach you different things, not only the hard skills, but those soft skills that employers look for. So for me, I think it's just being well-rounded and open to new opportunities as well.
Okay, good. Thank you. Yeah.
What is one thing about being a professor that students would never guess?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. And I had to reflect on it. There are so many things, but to me, the one thing that students never think you, the professor, can do is how you can impact or change the lives of students beyond the classroom. The role of the teacher is, in one sense, molding a person with regard to not only the knowledge, but the character of the person, because you are sharing knowledge that influences the person's behavior, the person's affect, and the person's attitudes, as well as cognitions. So in that sense, you are molding them or shaping them in a particular way. and to the extent that you can leverage your diversity experiences to mold them in a positive way, in line with McMaster's motto, you would be brightening their world and brightening the world of their communities and brightening the whole world in general. Yeah.
I think one thing that students don't really do is like actually reach out to their professors. Professors can open up a massive, massive network, and we have such amazing faculty here at Mac. So actually like, taking that first step and like reaching out and actually putting yourself out there, I think is another thing that students are missing. So like along with like the Brighter World initiative at Mac, I think our professors can provide us with so many different avenues for that.
No, you're right, and I agree with you, because I remember there was an event I went to and I encountered some students at the event, and when I was leaving, I said, feel free, this is my address, this is my office in DSB, and feel free to stop by anytime and say hello, or just to let me know how your experiences are going, and if there's anything I can help, I will do it. As we sit here today, no student has stopped by the office. Those students have not stopped by the office. So, and I cannot go looking for them because I might be kind of intruding into their space. But that is an opportunity that, for example, they are not taking advantage of, because I might be aware of certain things that can help them. But because they haven't come, there's no way I can say this can help you. Yeah. What's been your most memorable or unexpected moment as a student so far?
I would say my most memorable part of like my student career so far is being within student leadership. Like I mentioned before, one of the main factors of me choosing Mac was that sense of very, very strong community within the student body. And being a student leader is something that really allowed me to not only build those leadership skills, but also really involve myself within the McMaster community. I've had the immense privilege of actually being able to lead not only clubs, but also serve as prominent leadership on the DeGroote Commerce Society. I'm currently the president of the DeGroote Marketing Association, and those experiences taught me so much that I wouldn't have learned in the classroom. It kind of goes along the lines of putting yourself out there and actually stepping into those spaces where you might not see yourself represented. I think that has really driven my not only student career, but my professional development as well, because these experiences actually push you to go further, especially in the workforce. And a lot of the things that you do in the clubs are one-to-one of what you actually do in the field, like managing a brand, for example. For the DeGroote Commerce Society, I initiated a rebrand, same thing with DMA, and those skills are what I actually do day to day in my current job. So I think student leadership is something that is very, very crucial for students, especially for Black students, as we have to put ourselves out there. So taking those steps, those initial steps, whether it be joining a club or doing an extracurricular, I think those are the most important things, especially not only for Black students, but for students all here at Mac. And that's one of the most memorable parts of my undergraduate experience, is actually putting myself out there, joining those clubs, and really pushing yourself towards leadership positions. I think that's one thing that a lot of students should do, and I encourage, because it is one thing that will set you apart in a sea of applicants, especially in nowadays with the job market. But not only that, it gives you skills that you won't learn anywhere else. And I think for me, that's been my most rewarding part of my Mac experiences, is actually putting myself out there, joining clubs, and really building an experience for other students as well. Because the work that you put in is not only for yourself, you're building community, you're bringing people together. And I think that is another thing that really, really helped my experience and really added to how rewarding Mac has been. And I think for any student coming in, especially Black students, put yourself out there. I think that's the most important thing.
Okay, good. Well done. Yeah, thanks for that.
Have you seen any changes over time in academia in terms of representation, inclusion, especially in the business fields?
Yes. Brief history. There was a time representation or broadly diversity, inclusion, and equity was not in the conversation at all. And then it came to the fore, and people began to teach and research diversity, representation. And I remember myself even writing some papers on diversity and representation. And it seemed to be making a lot of progress. It was on an upward trajectory until 2025. And I'm talking of in the US, where that tendency, people who were making a career in diversity and inclusion almost all of a sudden lost those careers because they had to move universities, they had to move, change jobs, and essentially anybody studying diversity and inclusion, the schools would not accept that anymore. So essentially, if that was your area, you wake up one morning and you have no job, or what you thought was a career is no longer valuable. So that is, I've seen that, and it's unfortunate. I am glad Canada has not gone in the way of the US, and I'm glad other countries have not gone in the way of the US, because, like it or not, diversity is important. And it's unfortunate that somebody thinks that diversity is not important, but that person's term will be over. That person will soon be out of the light, and things will get back to normal, and we would have a brighter world. At the moment, we're in a dark world, but the sun will shine, and hopefully very soon.
I think
Yeah.
diversity is the thread that holds us all together.
Yeah.
And without diversity, there aren't unique ways of thinking, unique ways of doing.
Yeah.
And it is a shame that, diversity is not something that is highlighted. But it's one thing that is the foundation of a lot of things that we do. Like even in my club, we try to be diverse. We try to listen to diverse perspectives.
Yeah.
And the lack of that really leads to groupthink. And I think not having the ability to look outward is a very, very, very bad thing, because it really closes you off.
Yes.
If you don't put yourself out there, listen to diverse perspectives, you're really closing yourself out to the outside world. And I think that's one thing that we are seeing, is that even in like a broader political sense, Canada is opening itself up to the world. We're all looking for diverse perspectives, and if that's not something that is appreciated in the workplace, then it's an opportunity that they're missing up on, because without looking actively for those connections, we are really closing ourselves off into the depth of knowledge that we can gain, and hopefully sometime soon we can rebound from that, because I know in times of darkness there's always the light. So
Yeah.
I think pulling out of that, we can hopefully build back stronger, and really having diversity at the forefront, because I think that's one of the most important things, especially nowadays as the world is so tight-knit, so connected, is having diversity at the forefront is something that every single person, especially in leadership, should be thinking, and that should be something that's at the number one, that should be someone's number one priority, especially in leadership, is making sure that you have a team with diverse perspectives, and making sure that team is connected and drives change.
Okay. Good. So, who has been a major influence or mentor in your life, and what's the best advice they gave you?
I think I draw inspiration from a lot of people. Obviously, like my parents and my family, they've always been pushing and driving me to achieve large goals, and really pushing excellence. I think that's one thing that I've always strived to be, is the best. So I think having that mindset from like a very, very young age is something that has driven me to do things that I don't think I would have ever done. And another thing is surrounding yourself with a like-minded community, and people who have like-minded goals. I think one thing for me is surrounding myself with such an incredible team, not only from throughout my club, but also friends and family who also are high achievers. I think that is another thing that a lot of people need to think of is like who you're surrounding yourself with also reflects who you are as a person. So making sure that you're surrounding yourselves with the people who want you to achieve, who push you to, people who push you to actually achieve your goals. I think that's one thing that is very, very important. And I think for me is making sure that you have people who actually want you to achieve your goals, who are not bringing you down. I think that's another kind of going back all the way back to like why I chose Mac is that I feel like here we have that such strong and tight-knit community. We all push ourselves up. We all are in it together. And I think that's one thing that really allowed me to actually achieve all those goals and push myself to do better. Is having that strong mindset from parents, family, friends is just like of excellence, and also making sure that you're surrounding yourself with the right people.
So what does representation actually feel like in real life, not just as a buzzword for you, Andrew?
I think for me, representation is not only like having. I think for me, representation isn't only just seeing other people like me in the room, but also making sure that people like me are heard in the room. There's really a difference between just having someone there versus actually having that person and their perspectives listened to and valued. I think that's one thing that diversity was kind of going on that stream, is having people in the room just to fill a quota or to fill a number, but making sure that they're actually heard, that they're actually intertwined with the group, I think is one thing that for me is most important for actual representation. Making sure that our ideas are heard, that are that we're able to show up in those spaces, but also lead in those spaces. I think that's one thing that I look for, especially in leadership, is making sure that I'm represented, but also that our ideas are represented as well.
Okay. Yeah, and for me, representation is something that I have been, I would say, studying and researching on. And what I have come to the conclusion is real representation is when there is color blindness, in the sense that people don't look at you as a function of your race or as a function of your color, but see innately your capabilities and your dignity as a human being. In fact, I remember my office next door neighbor, we have been sharing some experiences these days, and he showed me a picture. He's originally from Turkey, but he showed me a picture where he says in Turkey, you have blacks there, and color doesn't matter. They are just treated as human beings. And he even told me in the first pilot that fought for the Turkish army in the First World War was a black Turkish. And that tells you the degree to which color doesn't matter for them. And for me, when the rest of the world comes to that stage of looking at people just for who they are, not necessarily their color or their race, that to me is what representation would really mean. And that is when it doesn't become a buzzword, because people can just throw it around and secretly do other things, and to me that doesn't matter. In the context of HR, when we talk of representation, we essentially refer to individuals of all groups or categories being within the department or the organization. And so it becomes real when you walk through the corridors and then you see all types of people around. So take, for example, Mark. Prior to the cohort hire and prior to the push towards diversity, when you walked through the halls, you only saw a homogeneous set of people. They were principally white and mainly male. But since then, now things have changed, that when you walk around the world, I can say you have almost a representation of the entire world. Because you have blacks in there, you have Indians, you have Middle Eastern folks, you have Asians, you have North Americans, you have Indian Americans. So there is a diversity. The world is represented, and that is what representation should be. Each group of people should be part of the school, should be part of the organization, and should be part of the institution. Mm-hmm. That is what it means by representation, and in line with the Brighten Your World, the motto of, or the logo of, the motto actually of McMaster. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
To echo your point, like, we're not just brightening one person or one people, but brightening the world for all. I think that's one thing, especially with representation, is just making sure that every single voice is heard.
Yeah.
And making sure that you're representing as many people as you can. I think Mac does a great job at that.
Yeah, yeah. And that is one, I know we haven't talked about it, but that is one thing that I really admire about Mac. The fact that they want, or they are pushing diversity and inclusion, which is in line with the idea of brightening the world. Because if you are brightening the world, you should brighten the world for everybody. The world is composed of people from diverse places. It's not just one group of people. So if you truly want to brighten the world, you have to make it open to all groups of people. When I talked about the changes that I have noticed in representation, and I talked of some of my colleagues' jobs disappearing, I didn't talk of it from the perspective of the corporate world. And that is one sad thing. In fact, I was listening to Obama yesterday, and he mentioned there was a time when all corporations were going into diversity and inclusion. They had diversity department, DEI officers, and just promoting, advancing. And when George Floyd happened, they all came out en masse to say, oh, things have to change, things have to change, things have to change. We have to do this, we'll devote money, we'll do this, we'll do this. And then 2025 comes, and they are told, hey, don't have diversity. And quietly, they all get rid of diversity. All the departments that they had, they got rid of them. The people that were working there, they got rid of them. And people that were working even outside the organizations to promote diversity, let's say consultants, they had nothing to do with those consultants. The funding that was devoted to promoting diversity and inclusion was diverted somewhere else, which basically tells you that they really did not mean it. They were not serious about the diversity, because if they really meant it, regardless of what they encountered, they would have stuck to their guns to say, this is important for us, this means a lot for us, and therefore, regardless of what you are asking us to do, we would not do it. And that is one thing I like about Mac, because even though you have that going on in other places, Mac is pushing forward with diversity. I say that because I am part of the Diversity and Inclusion Committee of DeGroote, and we also interact with other committee members in Mac in other places. So that is one pat on the back I would give to Mac for not giving in to what is going on outside and in other places, because what they are doing is not good, and what Mac is doing is great.
Mm-hmm. I think looking at, like, from like a student perspective, when you're looking at going into the field, making sure that the company that you're working for has those things in place, I think is really good. And it's very apparent when companies make all this big hubbub and putting things out there saying, hey, we support you, we support these communities, but then quietly take things back. It's something that we notice, and it really puts into perspective, how companies would treat us in the actual field. I think one thing that we see from those companies is that they're doing it in the interest of, let's attract these people to work for us. Let's make sure that we're putting on a good front for our brand, for how people approach us and see us in the world. And I think by making such a big commitment and big fight for representation and then taking that back, I think says a lot about the company and what they view. I think a lot of the time it might be in the interest of capital, making sure that, yes, consumers see that the brand is welcoming of all communities, but not really having that support directly there, I think, is one thing that bites them in the butt every single time. And to the companies that actually care and actually put resources into the communities that they say that they support, I think having that everlasting support there, I think, is one thing that everyone should look out for. I think for me, I only look at companies that have that support built in, and it's good to see that companies across the world are still having DEI and are still having diversity and ERG groups in place, and are still funding and supporting them. And so the companies that are taking those things back or slowly stepping away from the line, I think it really showcases a lot about what they value. And especially for students of all backgrounds, I think looking for where you want to solidify yourself for your career, I think make sure to look at what the company actually stands for, the values that they preach, whether it be tech or automotive or any field. The company that you want to represent, the company that you want to work for, should also support you in every single aspect. And I think hopefully, we see that diversity start to come back. We see that funding start to come back. And to the companies who are still preaching diversity, I think that is, that just like improves their rankings in my eye. So I think making sure that whatever company or whatever opportunity you go into, again, has that support for you coming in and is able to maintain that support for however long you're there.
Yeah, good. Yeah, I really hope that changes, because it's, the current trend is not good now, and hopefully they wake up to the ideals of Mark, if I can put it that way. Yeah. Okay. What excites you most, or what kind of impact do you hope to have in the next 5 to 10 years?
It's a big question. I think for me, I look for opportunities. I look for opportunities and experiences where I can have a lasting impact, not only with the teams that I work with or the people that I work with, but the ability to have my work out there and see it and have a little piece of my work in the world. I think that is one thing that I look for in any opportunity that I go for. And I think for me, finding that, whether it be through a company or through work I do for myself, I think for me, for the next 5-10 years, is having that ability to point at my work and be proud of my work. Who's to say where that will take me? 5 or even 10 years is a very, very long time. But I think my main goal at any opportunity that I have is just making sure that the work that I put out there is something that I can be proud of and provides like an impact to not only the people I work with, but people across the world as well.
Okay, good.
What excites you most about your future?
With regard to diversity, it is the fact that Mark is pushing diversity on campus, because I think the representation we talked about earlier on would come to fruition when you have diversity embedded in almost every aspect, so that everybody that is in Mark feels valued and represented. In other words, Mark becomes a true home for them. There are still some categories of students who don't feel like Mark is a home for them, and that is not good. So with the push for diversity, hopefully should lead to that stage where everybody that comes in says, oh, I'm at home. I don't even need to worry about my family home, because I feel I'm myself here. I can excel here. I can do my best here. Because the environment in which people are, to the extent that that enables their potential to grow, then they are likely to thrive. But if that is not the case, they are likely not to do well. And I want Mark to be the best, not only for the students, but in line with the motto, to be a brighter world for most people. When I came to Mark, that was what impressed me most, to see that that is their intention. They are not only talking about it, it's not espoused values, it's enacted values, because they are living it, they are doing it, and they are promoting diversity and inclusion. So for me, the future would be great when that time comes that representation is in full bloom, if I can put it that way.
Thank you so much, Professor Zoogah. Your insights, and especially on diversity, have been very impactful for me. And it's great to see that Mac is actually putting the effort in and is having these challenging conversations. And I thank you for your time.
Okay. Thank you very much, Andrew, and for the conversation with you. I appreciate it. This is my first time meeting you, but it looks like I've known you for a long time. So thank you very much for the opportunity to have this conversation with you.
No problem.
Thank you.
Thank you.